Hey everybody, Texas Truck here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It's Monday, I'm off work for Christmas and New Year's, and it is, of course, very, very cold. So, needless to say, I'm trying to get to a point where I can probably take the grill guard off the truck, and in order to do that, I've got to have some space, and that requires moving the motor, and the motor's been rolling around on this dolly from the machine shop. And I'll eventually return it to them. Guess they haven't needed it because I've had it for quite a while. But that's a performance tool dolly, right? And then if you come over here, the 5.2 Magnum out of the truck is on a performance tool dolly. I bought that thing. It's like the cheapest one on the market. I thought it was fantastic. Liked it so well, and obviously have so many motors, hanging around in various locations. I bought a second one. Second one was a giant piece of junk. Nothing was square, nothing was lined up. Could you fix it? Yes, but at that point you're better off making your own. So I returned it. The 440 here is sitting on probably the best, Mopar specific rolling engine dolly or cradle you could get. It was originally designed by Andy F. of AR Engineering. The U.S. Car Tool now produces them. They used to be all stainless, so you could powder coat it. I think orange now. I think they all kind of come like this. But again, specifically designed, is not universal, like that thing, or it fits Chevys and maybe some other stuff. That's specific to Chrysler. The problem is, only downside, you get, those casters are basically what they use, on like a rotisserie, if you're doing a frame-off restoration type of a deal. But very, very beefy, very impressive unit. Only downside being the cost, right? That's dirt cheap. One of them was good. One of them was a total junker. This is fantastic, but expensive. Obviously, I've upgraded. There's the old Harbor Freight engine stand here. Right here, I've got the OEM one, which I'm hoping is really good. It's geared for me, so I can, crank it. I've got the engine adapter, so I don't have to use like the 4 arms like we do over here. So it should be upgrade time. But one of the things that I kind of need to get together and get out of my way so I can move some stuff around and have more space here in the floor is this. And if you look at it, no, it's not the EFI. That's just what this is sitting on. And what this is the Allstar Performance engine cradle. Now, what's unique about it, one, it's like what, 1-inch square tube, I would guess, maybe smaller, but it is kind of set up, and it's not universal per se. It's all roughly the same, but what they do is they come in and obviously they have different locations for different mounts. So this one, I believe, was geared for the small block Mopars. The plan is to get that poor 318 off the Harbor Freight stand, which, to its credit and to the credit of the threaded rod, that's been there for years. Never fallen, never dropped, nothing crazy. Usually has wood underneath the oil pan, but whatever. The bottom line, though, is this thing came, I don't think the box was in really good shape, or I would have kept it. I can't remember if I started this video and abandoned it or what. But the thing that kind of will irk you about this one, you've got a situation here where so that wasn't welded. But right there, like I said, this is out here a long time. So where do you see that kind of square nut that's got threaded, just threads in it? That would be, I believe, for their casters. Their casters look like they're pieces of junk. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. And I didn't buy them. I figured, I can source my own. The other thing is, I'm not sure that I want casters on this one. I might try to get that 318 on this or the Magnum. I'm not 100% sure. And then kind of bag it and stow it away. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would have a much bigger shop, and I would have pallet rack, and we would put these on skids on the stands, and we would just shelve them, and then they'd be not in the floor and not in my way. But that's not what's available to me here. So needless to say, this is kind of your setup, and you'll get a better, since it's black, it's sort of hard for you to make out all the details. But I've got all of the hardware kind of laid out here. Obviously, the Stavilla did not come with this. That was from something else I was doing the other night. But couple long bolts, couple short bolts, couple small bolts, couple of tiny, like quarter 20 stuff. Could be metric, I don't know, I haven't tried to assemble it. And then right there we've got like some plastic caps for the square tubes, so you don't get junk or dust down in them. So what I'm going to do is just throw this thing together. That bar that fell off on the oil pan is included. and see what we think of it. And if I can put a motor on it, great. If not, I'll just shelve it and get it out of my way so I can sort of move some of this stuff. So I shall be back and we'll have this thing assembled. Alright, so update time for you. Got the thing assembled. Difficult thing, of course, is the hardware, because you kind of want to keep it intact so you'll have it when you put a motor on it and take it off. Best advice I would have on that front would probably be to kind of do what I've done here. You can see we've got, the long bolt threaded through there, got the flat on the top, nut on the back side. You can situate those there and kind of have these here like I've done. Or you could come in, and keep in mind, if you don't have the casters, that's going to put this real close to the ground. So you would want to drill, side to side, if you will, through here, and then weld a nut on. And you can keep whatever hardware you want to. If you want to upgrade to grade 8, you can do that. But then it would keep everything that you're going to need when you put a motor on this thing right there with you, and you wouldn't have any clearance issues, because again, you're going to be going front to back in line with, say, the intake manifold, as opposed north and south down towards the ground where it could be an issue. I want to say, this is kind of, the hardware sort of iffy, but given that this stuff should bolt to the back of the bell housing, you would think like these would be, 3/8, that said, everything else, these bolts here, you could be 5/8 or 16, and then down there 11 millimeters fit just a little bit better than 7/16, but you can get the job done with any of it. And then of course we've got the little halder there just to drive in 4 of these. Again, some of them were already in place, some weren't. I couldn't tell you why. But again, the rubber mount like that's super nice for those, because that plastic is pretty frail. If you don't have it square before you get down, you will definitely tear it. But that's what it looks like now. I'm also not sure that I want to take the time to throw a motor on it now, because I've got more pressing things to do. But I want to say that's assembled correctly. My biggest issue is when you come in here, you've got this same tab welded on both sides, right? And this middle one is going to be for the locating pin on the back of the block. That's going to be standard place on the LA series and of course the Magnums. If you note though, I've got this in the top, and some of you, that are trying to position this in your head, thinking of the back of the block and the bell housing area, you think, well, hey, that should be, you should just thread that in straight to the bell housing. I would agree with that, and that's what those bolts should be for. Obviously they would fit here. The only issue I have is that this is 5/8, right, or 60, whatever you want to call it. And down here, we've got a situation where this bolt doesn't fit there, only the little stubby one does. It should be up here. So I don't know if these were drilled correctly or punched correctly and then just flipped when they welded them. It's a simple thing to have screwed up, I suppose. But in theory, that's the only way I could make sense of it, because if I take you over here, keep in mind this guy right here is a step up from this little stubby guy, and the stubby guy will fit fine right here. It would be pretty big there, but this one threads in fine there, but will not fit here unless we were to enlarge the hole. Case in point, we're going to take this guy, come over here, and this would be the locating pin that I referenced, and then we've got this. Now the catch with this, that's just a pass through, it's not threaded. We come up here and we get to the actual bell housing bolts, right? And you'll note that that's a win. That threads right in. So I tell you what, if I can one-hand this, I'll sort of showcase what I'm talking about for you. Bear with me, I'm trying not to have it drop down, because I know the washer is likely to spin off. So, right here, we're a size up, okay? And it fits great here. It would fit great here, but again, that's for the locating pin. And you're thinking, well, put it in that hole. I can't, it's too small. And again, if you think, well, they couldn't have screwed that up, look at the profiles, well, think side to side here. We've got the second bracket over there, and if you were to flip it, then at that point everything would orient itself correctly. And the more damning thing, while this passes through the top, which would be the bell housing, if I take you back over here to the motor, keep in mind all the bell housing bolts are going to be the same. This is a size up, right? We can't do it. It's designed for this. Now, the cool thing, this bolt right here, passes through this unthreaded cavity beautifully, and we've got plenty of real estate there. So I'm inclined to say that the brackets were welded improperly, just flipped side to side. Again, easy thing to have done. Sad that it happened, sad that it's not like cotton quality control. Again, even if there was a jig or a template, if it's the same size bracket, it defeats the purpose. That's why you would want, you know, one side to be taller and one side to be shorter. That way, whenever it's, you know, jigged up by the worker or the robot or whatever, it's not going to fit the jig, and then you're going to know, oh, gotta flip it. But that's not the case here. So easiest thing for me or you, if you wind up with this product, to do is simply drill this out. You're just going to egg it out, you know, another 1/8 of an inch basically. But it sucks having to do that. I want to say this was powder coated, maybe it's just painted, but again, stupid little things, definitely suck to run into. So and then oddly enough, you know, you don't have the nut with that one. If you would just come in, which granted the Bellhousing bolts you could totally do on the top side, you know, if you wanted them centrally located or something, but everything else, if you were to drill here, you know, side to side, you could keep all this in place without having to do it like this. Now this one, if you think of sort of like the old school LA engines, right, you would come in and we would have it over here in the classic motor mount location, just totally disregarding the Magnum stuff. But that is the Allstar engine cradle, which unfortunately I've got to give a strike against. Keep in mind, I haven't even mocked this thing up. I did, before I assembled it, take one side over to the 318 here on the stand, and again, exact same configuration. But you can see here, we've got what would be our pass-through that's not threaded, obviously indicated by the head of the bolt being here. Then you've got your locator, and then right here we would start in with our bell housing area. So even though, you know, it's a Magnum versus an LA, again up here you can see kind of the old school 318 mounts. Should be the same on the back side, right? They share that infrastructure architecture. And like I said, simple thing to do is just egg it out. The good news is, one of the cool things about this is if you do outfit it with your own casters, I'm assuming you would do that because you like a certain brand of caster. The other thing, this would literally come apart in minutes, you know, if you were to need to store it or move it or throw it in a trailer and it was too expansive like this, because you just have these 4 bolts that hold this, you know, universal bar across between the two. And so again, that's just square tube with angle kind of welded to it. But yeah, it's not terrible. But when you look at this, this is definitely something you could make yourself, especially you know, if you got just a welder and a plasma cutter. You wouldn't have to have a plasma cutter, but it would make your life a little bit easier. So anyway, we will eventually get a motor on this. Maybe I'll wait to release this video. Maybe I'll just throw a hodgepodge of shop updates in with this. I don't really know right now. But I've needed to get that thing assembled so I can move it. And who knows, I might disassemble it based on this, so it'd be easier for me to drill or something. But that is the Allstar engine cradle. Again, we'll see what we think of it once we have a block on it. Maybe get some casters in it and so on and so forth. But with that said, I'm going to get it moved out of my way, get the tools put up so I can kind of continue cleaning here. So stay tuned. Alright, so as I've been cleaning here in the shop, I've also been cleaning in the house and on the computer. And one of the videos that was like in progress for a really, really long time is in regards to this Allstar engine stand. Now, first again, to kind of recap the saga for you, that yellow teal is from Performance Tool. They're dirt cheap. They support the block by the oil pan. Obviously works great if it's an assembled engine. But it was awesome. It was super cheap. It's adjustable. You can basically use it for anything. If it's big blocks, if it's small blocks, it covers all my Mopar needs. What I did then is I bought another one of them, and it was complete trash. I mean, the thing was out of square. Could you have fixed it? Yes, but you would have had to basically break it down, and at that point you just as well build your own and powder coat it in the color you like. Sent that back. At some point in time I bought that one, which is way expensive, but it's also super nice. It's from US Car Tool. It breaks down, it ships really well if you need it to do that, and it's really, really heavy duty. Then this came in because I was looking for something cheap. Obviously the performance tool, I felt like it's a crapshoot. If you get one that's good, it's awesome. You save a lot of money. If you get one that's bad, it's worthless. So, not knowing anything about the Allstar, we brought it in. And I gotta say, it goes together fine. It has a bit of flex to it. And you need that because the mounting ears, keep in mind on a Magnum, which that's what this is a 408 Magnum, we use the spool mounts in the middle. Old LA blocks, like the 318, don't have that. They rely on the front mounts, old school style. These are offset just a little bit. It's probably easier for you to see it on this 318. So pay attention. Basically, this would be our exhaust port. When we come down, we have the boss. And if I jump you around to the other side, you can kind of see it looks square, but I think it's offset just a little bit. And it's easiest to see here on the stand. What I'm referencing, you can kind of see the 2 bolts, and then you've got like a plug, and then right there you've got the 2 bolts, you've got a plug, and then you've got a lot more real estate before you get to the upright. So it is a little tricky to kind of bend that back into place. It's also not the easiest thing in the world to get this around the dowel. All right, both sides we've sort of got the locating pin for the transmission. And ultimately got it together. I did not opt by the casters because I thought they looked cheap. And it's currently on a Harbor Freight Furniture Dolly with some plywood on top of it, which has worked fine. Kind of something I had to do last minute, if you will. But overall, it is a viable option. Again, that was great. I really liked it, and liked it well enough to buy a second one, and the second one was a piece of trash. So quality control is an issue there. This one is no complaints at all, but very expensive. And then this, it works. I'll leave it at that, and it is an option for you. So I've kind of got a litany. I've got a couple of cheap options, different styles. Personally, I do like the fact that this supports the block from the mounts and from the back where your bell housing would go. And the reason I say that is, let's say that you had just an engine block. You didn't have it assembled. It had been machined, or you pulled it apart and tore it down. The Performance Tool one, without that rail of the oil pan, you could set it there, but moving it would kind of be sketchy. With this, it's bolted down. It's a solid option. Ultimately, what I would advise is I would say this is a great option for either configuration, whether it's a bare block or fully assembled. Again, being a brand new motor or used. And then right here, this Performance Tool one is great for assembled motors if it's square, and that's honestly a crapshoot. I've had 2 of them, and it's 50-50. Would I try that again? Yes, but I would temper my expectations. And then this is from US Car Tools, so it's big block only. I think they have a small block one. Maybe we'll bring one in when funds allow. But once this is in the truck, the plan is to use this stand for the 318, the old school 318 there. But overall, that is a look at the Allstar engine stand. Again, they make these for all sorts of engines, this one being small block Chrysler. Obviously, I did test fit it to the 318 on the stand, and it fit fine. This would be essentially the same thing, just a 5.2 Magnum. And it's doing its job, so overall, not too bad. If you have the casters, if you have some of these and you've purchased their caster kit, which was pretty expensive if I recall correctly, let me know how you like them, if they're any good, if they're bad. I'm sure it would suffice, especially, like with a small block or something, aluminum based. That's not much weight to put on anything, but I eventually may throw casters on this sucker. We'll just wait and see. The provisions are already built in, obviously. But I do feel like, we kind of have all 3 of your viable options here. The motor feet that have become popular recently, those would work well for a stripped block, a bare block, an assembled engine, a salvage engine, whatever. They're not as easy to find for Chrysler stuff, right? If we had an LS or a small block Ford, we can get them. But for Chrysler stuff, if they exist yet, which they very well could, I haven't found them easily, maybe we'll bring them in and try them. But for now, this is what we've got. And again, for the money, I don't think the Allstar is terrible. Just rest assured, it's not going to be like a perfect fit. You will kind of have to shim it and put some effort into it. But once you get it taken care of, it will serve you well. I should also mention the hardware they included. Okay, one of these bolts is actually from something different I had, because this is their hardware. Obviously these would be the nuts for the two that we have going into the block on the back. This is what they included, and it was too short. It was like, it fit fine on one side, and the other side I think we're about a half of an inch too short. Obviously I can't put the nut on if it doesn't pass through the bore of the blocks, right? So I had to salvage a bolt from elsewhere, and then these two weren't even used, but that is a note worth having. So maybe have some extra hardware on hand, but like I said, I realized I was on the computer. I've never made the video, and this is sort of the wrap up to it. So if you're in the market for an engine stand and it's going to be a block only, I think this is probably your best cheap option at this point in time, short of course fabbing something yourself, which ultimately I do believe we will do. But as is, this was available. It was going to get to me in 2 days, and we took advantage of that. So, but that is Allstar. That is Performance Tool. That is US Car Tool. And like I said, maybe later on we'll kind of do a more in-depth analysis of each one. But for all intents and purposes, the Allstar is a pretty decent value. Again, I'm unsure of the casters because I opted not to bring them in. Obviously, this furniture dolly is $10. If you got plywood laying around, you're saving yourself like $50 from their caster kit. You can pick up casters pretty cheap. That would probably be an upgrade as well. Some people want casters, some people don't. Some people are going to put this, like on pallet rack or something. So keep that in mind. And that said, hopefully it helps you out. Again, started that video a long time ago, so I don't know what all we covered, but it goes together very well. You will spend a little effort, a little time needed to kind of get everything squared and lined up, but once it's in there, obviously it's doing a decent job of holding the motor. So I will quit rambling. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, leave a comment, ring the bell, jump your duster across the creek. Just maybe YouTube will let you know when we upload new videos. But with that said, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. If you use the Allstar engine stand, let me know your thoughts, how well it fit with your application. Again, make sure you denote that, whether it's a small block Chrysler, big block Chrysler, Ford, Chevy, whatever. First-hand feedback is what we value the most, so if you've got good things to say, terrible things to say, leave them down in the comments. Perhaps most importantly, since I have no first-hand experience with their casters, are they worth it? Are they great? Are they terrible? Are you better off with something from Harbor Freight? Are you better off with a furniture dolly and a piece of wood? Let me know that, and hopefully help people out moving forward with their own purchases. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up another video from a long time ago that I never finished, and I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.